All right, for this story, we're heading to the coast of Spain, to a town that looks like it's straight out of a painting. Seriously, it's that perfect. But you know how these things go. Beneath all that beauty, sun-bleached walls, cobblestone streets, there's a secret. A really dark one that's been waiting for more than 100 years.
I mean, picture this, a place so beautiful. All you hear are church bells in the distance. But then, the sun goes down, and it all changes. A hush falls over the town, and this chill creeps into the air. And it's not just the temperature dropping. It really makes you wonder, right? What happens when a place that looks like heaven starts to feel, well, like you're trapped?
So this is where our story kicks off, in this picture-perfect town, Salobreña. And we're going to follow a young guy who has no clue, absolutely no idea, what he's just walked into.
And this contrast is everything. During the day, Salobreña is just what you'd expect. It's charming, it's full of life, you hear those church bells, it's idyllic. But man, the second that sun dips below the horizon, it's like a switch is flipped. The whole town just transforms. Streets are deserted, total silence. And the air, it actually starts to feel heavy. It's unnatural.
Okay, so let's meet our guy Mateo Guerrero. He's just 19 years old, a student studying architecture, and he's totally obsessed with old European towns. That's why he's in Salobreña. He's there to study the ancient churches, the old homes, soak up the history. He was there for the architecture, definitely not for what was waiting for him.
So right away, this is the first thing that Mateo just can't shake. The town is buzzing all day long, but the second dusk hits, it's like an alarm goes off that only the locals can hear. Everyone just vanishes indoors. Why? It was this nagging question, this one little mystery, and it was the first thread he pulled that was about to unravel everything.
All right, so this is where things start to get really creepy. Mateo, being the architecture nerd he is, naturally gravitates to the oldest parts of town, which of course includes the church cemetery. And it's right here that this weird vibe he's been feeling starts to become something much, much scarier.
So he's there, sketching the old tombstones, and suddenly he sees it, a really old, broken-down wedding arch just standing there in the middle of a cemetery. Super weird, right? It's covered in these dried, dead flowers, like someone set up for a wedding 100 years ago and then just walked away. It's got this sad, eerie feeling to it.
And that same night, things start happening. First, he hears this faint sound, almost like a dress dragging across the cobblestones. He looks out his window just in time to see a flicker of white disappear down the street. Then, boom, this freezing cold draft rips through his room, even though the window's closed. But the real clincher comes the next night. He finds wet, muddy footprints on the dry stone path outside, and they're leading from his guest house straight back to the cemetery.
Okay, so at this point, his curiosity just completely overrides his common sense. I mean, who wouldn't follow them? He tracks the footprints all the way back to the cemetery, right back to that weird wedding arch, and someone is standing there. It's a woman in what looks like a really old, tattered wedding dress. Her face is covered by a veil, and she's just standing there, motionless, like she was expecting him.
He takes one step closer, and she slowly turns her head. And when that veil moves just enough for him to see, oh man, he's frozen solid. Her face is bone white, her eyes, they're just these dark, empty holes. And running down her cheeks, where tears should be, are these crusty streaks of dried blood. But that's not even the worst part. The thing that completely shatters his reality, he looks down and her feet aren't touching the ground. She's just floating there, an inch or two above the dirt. And as soon as his brain processes that impossible fact, poof, she just vanishes, gone.
You can imagine, Mateo doesn't sleep a wink that night. The next morning, he basically corners the old guy who runs the guest house. The second he mentions the wedding arch, the caretaker's face just goes white. And the old man realizes, okay, it's time to tell this kid the town's secret. It's time to tell him about the dead bride.
So this is the backstory, the tragedy that started it all. You see, back in 1889, a young woman, Isabella Romero, was getting married to a guy named Javier. The wedding was set up right there by the cemetery. But Javier was a no-show. He'd actually skipped town with another woman. Isabella, bless her heart, couldn't accept it. She waited all night long in the cold under that wedding arch. By the time the sun came up, she was dead. The story goes she died of a broken heart.
And here's the kicker. She never really left. Her spirit, they say, is trapped there, forever tied to that spot where her heart was shattered. This is classic folklore, right? A local tragedy becomes a ghost story that everyone knows and fears. They call her the Dead Bride, a heartbroken ghost always waiting for the groom who abandoned her. And yeah, Mateo just came face to face with her.
So now that Mateo knows the story, he was absolutely terrified. But he probably thinks, okay, I saw her, I know the legend, it's over. Oh, he couldn't be more wrong. Seeing her was just the introduction. Now that she's seen him, her haunting goes from a chance encounter to a full-on, relentless pursuit.
Sure enough, that night, he hears the footsteps again. But this time, they don't just walk past. They stop, right outside his door. The room gets icy cold, and that smell hits him again, like damp dirt and old, dead flowers. He looks down and sees a shadow block the light from under the door. Then, the doorknob starts to turn, slowly. The door creaks open, and there's nothing, just an empty hallway. For a split second, he thinks, okay, maybe I'm losing my mind. He lets out a breath, and then he happens to look at the window, and she's there. Her face is pressed right up against the glass, just inches from his. Those empty eyes, that dried blood, staring directly at him. And just as fast, she's gone again.
Okay, so now he is in full panic mode. He bolts to the local church and finds the priest, who listens to his story and then asks him this one chilling question. Did you take anything from the cemetery? And Mateo's heart just sinks. He remembers. He picked up a few of those brittle, dead flowers from the arch. It's like one of those classic ghost story rules, you know? Don't disturb the site. The priest explains it all. The spirit isn't just haunting him. She thinks he's her groom, Javier, finally back to claim her.
The priest's advice is blunt and terrifying. Get out of this town, now, and don't ever come back. So Mateo doesn't even hesitate. He sprints back to his room, starts throwing everything he owns into his bag. But it's already too late. Think about it. This spirit has been waiting for over 100 years. There's no way she's letting her groom get away now.
So as he's scrambling to pack, the world outside just falls apart. The sky goes completely black. A crazy storm just rolls in out of nowhere. The lights in his room start flickering like a horror movie, and then they're out. Total darkness. Just the sound of thunder and rain pounding against the house. And then a huge, brilliant flash of lightning.
And in that flash of light, she's there. Not at the window, not in the hall. She is in the room with him, standing right in front of his face.
The caretaker heard one scream, just one, and it was enough to make his blood run cold. He raced to Mateo's room, burst through the door, but it was no use. The room was empty. The window was thrown open to the storm, and Mateo, he was just gone. It was hours before they found him, and of course, he was in the cemetery, lying right beneath that broken wedding arch, completely covered in wet mud from the storm. The dead bride, after more than a century of waiting, had finally gotten her groom.
And just like that, Mateo's story becomes the newest, most terrifying chapter in Salobrena's legend. A warning to anyone who might get a little too curious. And it leaves you with this really unsettling question, doesn't it? When a local legend stops being just a story and decides to make you a part of it, is there really any escape at all?